Utah is going to win the Big 12, but they're going to have 2 losses before they do just that. JT Wistrcill, Locked On Utes, joining me here on the show. It's my favorite time of year, JT. Record predictions, game by game. If you have a team you want me to do, just let me know in the comment section or shoot me a note on Twitter. Let's just hop right into it. And I've got Utah losing twice. The first time is in week 4, but they're non-conference slate. I think this will be pretty much a breeze. Southern Utah, Baylor, and then at Utah State. Coaching turnover up there in Logan. I didn't think that was going to matter a ton anyway. It's usually a decent Mountain West team, but I think that just adds another ingredient in Utah's favor to where I think they go through those first 3 games. Utah should be a preseason top 10 team, and I think we're going to leave their non-conference slate thinking, yeah, this is the preseason top 10 team we thought they were.
Yeah, I think we'll look at it like, okay, Cam Rising's back. He looks healthy. How about Brant Keithy lighting it up in a couple of these games? Although we'll see. Like Baylor, I expect him to play the whole game. Unfortunately, against Southern Utah, probably not going to play much of the second half. And yeah, Utah's beaten Utah State as well. Weird wrinkle, Bryson Barnes, Utah starter last year for when Cam was hurt. He's now the starter at Utah State. There's a reason he was the backup. This game won't be a problem, but just kind of weird to see the guy who led Utah to so many big moments now in the other uniform. But yeah, hype will be high going to that Oklahoma State game. Utah's breezing through these first few games.
Yeah, so a 3-0 start there. And then I think they take their first loss in the season for a while. Week 4 on the road at Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Look, this is a quarterback advantage, and I tend to lean towards the team that has a better quarterback. I just love the rest of Oklahoma State's roster at home. And when you have Kyle Whittingham, you also tend to have a coaching advantage in a given game. But on the other side of the field is Mike Gundy, who is one of the longest tenured, highest floor program. Like Utah and Oklahoma State have a lot of things in common. They have down years, but they're never awful. And it's because of their head coaches. And I think if this game were in Salt Lake City, I would be taking Utah. But it's in Stillwater, tough place to go, new environment for the Utes. I think Ollie Gordon and that offensive line are able to do enough. And I think the home crowd spurs on their defense, which I believe should be solid for Oklahoma State this year. I think this is a home field factor that, to me, cancels out the clear gap at quarterback between Alan Bowman and Cam Rising.
This is by far, like, if you're looking at, okay, what's the game Utah's most likely to lose? It's clearly this game because of how difficult it is to play in Stillwater. But you also mentioned something very intriguing, the quarterback disparity. When Utah's lost big games in the past, they've lost it to, like, UCLA, DTR, who's a really good college quarterback. Bo Nix has beaten them before, too, really good college quarterback. Or they lost
twice. Sorry.
Yeah. So either way, the theme's Anthony Richardson at Florida. So, like, really good quarterbacks. That's what's beat this Utah team. They're not going against that at Oklahoma State. And what else is this Utah team? Probably their best attribute, even better than Cam Rising, that run defense. Only one guy's not back in Jonah Ellis. Yeah, he was the 3rd-round pick, but that was more for his pass rushing prowess. Utah's run defense didn't drop off whenever he missed games. This Utah run defense is fantastic. I think they're going to hold Ollie Gordon in check, and I think this is going to be a statement win for Utah. Their defense will force Alan Bowman into 2 turnovers, and Utah in their first official Big 12 game, because we mentioned that Baylor one, but it's not a Big 12 game for some reason, makes a big statement and announces themselves as one of the top teams in the country with a big win over the Cowboys in Stillwater.
Yeah, it's funny that week 2 game against Baylor, Utah is going to play with a Big 12 patch on their jerseys, and they're going to play on a field that has Big 12 on it. They're going to be playing another team with Big 12 on their jerseys, but it's going to be a non-conference game. Not the only time that happens in the Big 12 slate. So you have them starting 4-0. I have 3-1. Next week they come home against Arizona before they play 4 straight games that they could win all by double digits. But that Arizona game, look, I think Arizona's a good, capable team. I don't think they're great. I think Utah is top of the league. I think Arizona is in the 2nd tier in the Big 12 conference this year with just a lot of turnover, a lot of newness, and Utah with a lot of known factors going into the year. I like Utah in that game. I'll be very curious to see what the point spread is. That might be one of my best bets of the week because I'm supremely confident in Utah despite what happened in Tucson last year.
This is a Utah team that has only lost 1 true home game since 2018. Yes, they lost one during the COVID year as well. Fans weren't there. I'm not counting that. They lost to Oregon last year. Even that loss to the Ducks, No Cam Rising. So this is a team that at full strength, we haven't seen them lose a home game in what feels like forever. And that's where I feel like this crowd, that environment, I totally agree with you. Noah Fafita is fantastic. I think he's one of the best QBs in the sport, but him and McMillan are not enough to overcome the Rice-Eccles Stadium advantage where we see teams time and time again, even if they get off to a good start, they always taper off because of that altitude, because of the crowd noise, the fans, the way Utah plays at home. It's too much. I have Utah beating Arizona too. Obviously they're beating Arizona State. And TCU would be one if it's like, okay, if Utah's going there, are they going to have a trip up? But I think at home, they're clearly better than TCU. So I think they're going to take care of business against TCU as well. And same thing with at Houston. Yes, going on the road, Texas, but that's where it's nice that it's not too hot down there like that ugly Baylor game Utah played last year. Utah's clearly better than Arizona's the only one we can even make an argument for. And like we said, when you look at what they've lost, I feel like it's pretty clearly Utah's better too. I think Utah's going to roll. And yes, I have Utah undefeated right now. Some people may be like, that's unrealistic. In 2019, when Utah had a cupcake schedule and they didn't play any ranked teams, they didn't lose in the regular. They only lost once in the regular season at USC. So predicting Utah, to me, to not lost a game yet is realistic because their Big 12 schedule sets them up for success. We haven't mentioned games against Kansas and Kansas State because they're not on the schedule. This Utah team is primed for a big year. The Big 12 gift wrapped them a big favor with this schedule.
They certainly did. If they win that game against Arizona, which I expect them to, they go at Arizona State. And look, the Sun Devils will be improved. You got to be careful in Tempe. I don't think they're on Utah's level yet. TCU at home, Houston on the road, BYU at home. The home road splits there are perfectly aligned for that stretch of games because TCU and BYU, I think, are probably better than Houston, Arizona State. Wouldn't surprise me if Arizona State is better than BYU this season, but Arizona State also probably not going to have the craziest home environment to go into there. So I think they roll through. I think they win the Holy War, which is one of the games I'm most excited to see in these realigned crazy conferences because that's a fantastic rivalry with real vitriol between those two. I presume you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's too bad, because it's such a great rivalry, right? Utah and BYU. It'd be great if they were playing on rivalry weekend and not some random early week in early November. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yes,
BYU beat Utah the last time they played each other. These players, and that was before Cam Rising started. Cam's never beat BYU. That's crazy for as long as he's been at Utah.
Well, he hasn't played BYU.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. And also the other thing about Cam, because I know everyone goes crazy about his age, he's only played 2 full seasons. That's what's so wild about him being all the way back in his first year of college, being that 2018 season when he redshirted at Texas, but he just hasn't played. So this will be his first chance at BYU. This Utah team still has guys on it who lost to the Cougars before Utah turned around and won the Pac-12 in 2021. They're taking care of business in the Holy War, as well as all of those other games that you mentioned, Spencer.
All right, final 3-game stretch for the Utes here. You don't have a loss on their schedule at this time. I have one, and I do have one more. They play at Colorado. I don't think it's there. They come back home, Iowa State. I don't think it's there. Regular season finale, JT. They got to go all the way down to Orlando and play a UCF team that is going to be a lot better, certainly amongst the 4 newcomers in the Big 12 from a season ago, UCF, Houston, Cincy, and BYU. UCF is the best. They have recruited well. They have portaled incredibly well. They have KJ Jefferson as their starting quarterback. That is a veteran, capable guy. I am a Gus Malzahn fan at home. This is going to be seen as an upset to some, but I talked about this game earlier this summer as a potential upset. I'm sticking with it going into the year. I think Utah ends the regular season 10-2 with a loss in week 4 at Oklahoma State and the last week of the regular season when they go at UCF.
I have Utah 11-1. I just don't. You have to be so good to go undefeated. And once again, this schedule sets Utah up well. There's only one game, if we just look at it, they're probably not favored in. It's the Oklahoma State game. Speaking of the Oklahoma State game, that's one of the 3 hardest games on their schedule. The other 2 hardest games, in my opinion, actually come in this stretch. Why did I like Utah against Oklahoma State? A matchup. This elite run defense versus, yes, a stout rushing attack that Ollie Gordon has, but I just think Utah's got the bodies to contain him by packing the box. But Shedeur Sanders is an incredible talent. And while I think these Utah defensive backs are good, Shedeur Sanders is a guy, he was 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions behind a putrid offensive line last year.
Horrific.
That offensive line will be playing their best football come the game in November. Wow. I don't think they're not losing that game. But it's, to me, one of the 3 toughest that they'll play on there. So I do think Utah squeezes one out there. They take care of business against a really good Iowa State team who's also capable of beating them. and I agree with you. They lose at UCF with so much on the line, undefeated season. I agree with everything you said. Utah's a lot happier to play in Florida in late November than they were in early August, but KJ Jefferson, that transfer-loaded defense playing their best football in late November, just too hard to go undefeated in a college football season. I have Utah just missing out on a perfect regular season in the last and final, not rivalry game, but rivalry weekend for Utah.
There you go, UCF fans. Don't say we didn't do anything for you. JT Wistrcill has got Utah 11-1. I have them 10-2. Locked On Utes. Check them out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. JT, appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Spencer.